Hello and welcome back to the Spin Cycle Live. I am your illustrious host, Nathan Hale. We are back today with all of these spicy, hot stories. We got the tea to spill on so many things, but it is Monday. So happy Monday, everyone. I hope you're having a good Monday, October the 28th. It's been beautiful out here in the great state of Missouri. But you know where it's not been beautiful? With DEI. So let's get right into our first story and cover just that. Straight out of the Daily Wire, state treasurers, investors urge major companies to drop discriminatory DEI agenda. DEI, for those of you who don't know, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you rearrange the letters, it spells out DI, which I prefer. But here we are. Let's get right into this. So 17 different states, along with 60 investors, urge America's top corporations to ditch their discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion agendas, warning they could be in violation of both their duties and open companies up to legal risk. Now, let's just be reminded of what happened only a few months ago. We had the enormous case that happened with affirmative action here in the United States. Affirmative action got ruled out by the Supreme Court. They said they couldn't do it. Affirmative action was the case that colleges were using to admit certain students over others. Basically, they were allowing a lot of colleges were allowing Black students to enter into the universities with lower test scores compared to white or Asian students of those same test scores. I believe that is brought up later in this article. But that's a perfect example of diversity, equity, and inclusion, bringing that in. A lot of universities also have ended their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs per their state's request. This is great. We love to see stuff like this. This shouldn't be done. You shouldn't be using people's skin tones or their race or their ethnicity in any way to influence your decisions as a company, especially if, I understand where these states are coming from, where they are states that invest in these companies. They do have a stake in the financial futures of many of these corporations. So let's move on with this. So corporations throughout the country and across various industries have adopted blatantly discriminatory policies in the name of the DEI agenda. So here's an example of affirmative action. For example, white and Asian students were ineligible for internships and scholarship opportunities with Oracle, while Apple hosted a program with similarly excluded whites and Asians because of their race. Insane. I remember in a time that they were just excluding white people from things, and here they are now excluding Asians from things. I mean, it seems like all this is just an attempt to raise up those people who call themselves oppressed in the United States and push down people who are living actually pretty good lives. We all are living actually pretty good lives in the United States, but we all are facing the same challenges. I would hardly suggest that someone of different racial skin color is facing challenges today in the United States simply because of the color of their skin. Obviously, there are other contributing factors to that, but enacting policies like this isn't helping anyone. So a bunch of these state treasurers sent out a letter to a handful of these different companies. So they actually went out to Fortune 1000 companies. So those are the 1,000 biggest companies in the United States, from 17 state treasurers who warned about the company adopting DEI policies that could run afoul of the law. So this is great. I mean, this is going to put some pressure on these companies to change some of their actions. This is also showing that, hey, we might be getting some major lawsuits coming out of some of these states, either in the coming months or potentially, if we have a conservative president in office, we could be seeing some nationally, some national lawsuits against some of these major companies. So the EEOC Commissioner Andrea Lucas and others have stated that this ruling calls into question many companies' DEI programs, quote, unquote. The letter explains that adding, quote, DEI programs are rooted in Ibram X. Kendi's disturbing outlook that the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, a viewpoint that contradicts America's laws. So what many people don't understand is that DEI sounds really great on the outside. They package it up in this nice little bow and you just want to gobble it up. It sounds so nice. It sounds so sweet. It gets your heart going. Oh, it sounds so nice. But all it is simply pushing down people who have in the past had a lot of power to raise up people who in the past haven't had a lot of power. The issue with that is you're punishing people today who had nothing to do with discrimination, who had nothing to do with racism, who had nothing to do with enacting the laws and policies that led to discrimination and racism and segregation, just to uplift people who also were not alive when racism and segregation was running rampant through the United States. I mean, we saw this with college admissions, for instance, where you're letting in all of these Black applicants, for example, who don't have all that great test scores, and you're turning away these Asian, white, potentially even Hispanic students who had better test scores just so that you can meet your equity quotas and let in a certain group of people who are of that skin tone. And it's so awful to see stuff like this happening because of all those reasons, because it just pushes down people from the past. I mean, I want to see the best people getting into universities. I want to see the best people getting jobs. I don't care if they are white, Black, Asian, Hispanic. It does not matter. If you scored better on a standardized test, for instance, you should have higher priority to get into an Ivy League university, for example, than someone who scored lower on that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your racial background is. It does not matter. But to these people, it does. So to wrap this up, the letter from investors who collectively hold 60 billion in assets under management asserts that DEI agendas are divisive and label employees as oppressed or oppressors, and say that the unconscious bias based on the color of their skin, their biological sex, or their religious or political views. That's the other thing. That's the other thing with DEI that they never tell you about. All this unconscious bias. They tell you that because you're white, you have all this unconscious bias against anyone of any other skin tone or anyone who's different from you. Newsflash, stuff like this happening creates conscious bias against people. It doesn't matter who it is. The more that you keep bringing up all the stuff that, oh my gosh, all these different people are of different skin tones, of different ethnicities, of all these different racial groups are being treated differently. The more times you bring that up in society, the more times people are going to start to have that conscious bias against that group of people. Because I've been saying for the longest time, if you're in a minority and you're constantly telling people that you're in an oppressed group, that you're in an underrepresented, minority, whatever that is, you're going to start to give people this impression that you are, and they're going to start treating you differently. And that's not what you want. We should be treating everyone equally in the United States. This treats people unequally. It tells them that they have unconscious bias. I mean, how degrading is that to say to someone that you have unconscious bias against a group of people? Like, how dare you tell me that I see people through a different lens than literally any other race? I mean, we're all the same on the inside. It's just the melanin in our skin. So this was headed up by, it looks like, the Arizona treasurer, who wrote in a letter, said the state financial officers should focus on financial performance over trending social issues. So, great point. You should be trying to do the best for your company. You should be pouring that time and effort into making sure your company's returns are coming in hot, and not that you're following all this DEI quota. So, just to kind of wrap all this up, others who signed the letter include state financial officials in Alaska, Arkansas, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Utah. Little surprised to not see Florida in there, or or Texas for that matter. I'm wondering why they weren't included in that, but anyways, let's move on. Next story. So let's go ahead and switch this over. Bear with me, people. Share screen. And let's show this off. All right. So next story. So Joe Rogan had Donald Trump on the podcast today, or not today, a couple days ago. It's amassed almost 35 million views since October 25th. That was just a couple days ago. Kamala Harris was invited on the Joe Rogan podcast. She turned him down. She knew what Joe Rogan was going to ask her. She already knew what those questions were. She could not take the heat of Joe Rogan, but Donald Trump could. They sat down, had a 3-hour interview. I've only got about halfway through it because this thing has been so long to listen to. I can only take in little chunks at a time. But I've got to tell you, this is probably the best interview I've ever seen with Donald Trump. And I think he did absolutely fantastic. I think they talked about a lot of things I've never heard Trump talk about. They just in the first hour and a half, they spent at least, I would say, half an hour just talking about nuclear energy, which I've never heard really Trump talk about that topic. And he did a really fantastic job of kind of covering it and his position on all of it. I'm super excited to hear the rest of it. But I suggest you all go and watch this episode before it gets taken down, because I've already heard rumors that this episode was getting censored or has been censored or is going to be censored in the future. So if you want to see Trump on Rogan, now is the time to do it. You might miss it later on. But I would say some of the most interesting things that I heard Trump talking about just so far is his experience in hiring people to work in the White House with him. He talked about kind of his perspective on hiring politicians versus businessmen to come and work in government. And something kind of fascinating that I had not totally heard about was it's always been my perspective. I would rather see more businessmen or more private citizens in office. And they touched on that. And Trump basically said that, hey, if we bring it, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because if we bring in politicians, they have a vetting record. They've been around for a while. They've been in the public eye for a while. If we bring in a bunch of people from businesses from the private industry, a whole bunch of stuff might come out about them later on that we had no idea about, and that could really affect the administration. So I thought that was interesting to hear him kind of cover that and how he has had to kind of walk a winding road of, do we hire a politician? Do we hire a businessman to come in and work in the administration? I think right now he's got a really good balance of people who are politicians, yes, but they are Americans first. People like RFK, people like Tulsi Gabbard. I think Elon Musk, for example, some great people have all said they're going to be working in the administration. So I really hope we get to see that play out. Our next article. We covered this on the show a few days ago that Pennsylvania was looking to go after Elon Musk for the America PAC $1 million sweepstakes. And here we are on Monday with that very lawsuit. So Philadelphia DA sues Elon Musk and his super PAC over the $1 million sweepstakes. So Philadelphia's district attorney asked a state judge on Monday to shut down tech billionaire Elon Musk's controversial $1 million giveaway to registered voters, calling it an illegal lottery scheme. Quote, America PAC and Musk are lulling Philadelphian citizens and others in the Commonwealth and other swing states in the upcoming election to give up their personal identifying information and make a political pledge in exchange for the chance to win $1 million, the lawsuit alleges. So Musk or the PAC, they didn't comment on this or anything. A judge scheduled a hearing for the matter on Friday, just a few days from now. I can't totally complain about this, because that even if it gets shut down, it's still another week that this is going on. Now, like I said on the show before when we covered this, I am not the biggest fan of any money being passed around at all to get people registered to vote, to get people to vote in elections, to support one candidate or another. I think that there's too much money in politics as it is. But the fact of the matter is, if this was a Democrat doing the exact same thing, we wouldn't be seeing news articles like this. I mean, I can almost say that without a doubt, we wouldn't be seeing articles similar to this at all. It just seems very fishy that, as soon as someone like Elon, who supports conservatives, starts funneling money in that direction, all of a sudden it becomes an issue. But when money is funneled, like we showed on the show, I believe last Wednesday, into states for ballot measures, no politicians have anything to say about that. So President Joe Biden also said that must give away to registered voters in swing states is totally inappropriate. He rolled out of his casket just to say that Elon Musk was being totally inappropriate. Oh, breaks my heart. I respected Joe Biden so much. And then that just takes out the window for me. All right. That's all I got to say about that. Moving on. 2 ballot boxes set on fire in Portland and Vancouver. What's happening in Portland and Vancouver? Okay, first off, what is it about the coldest states in the country? I mean, up in like the Northwest and Minnesota, what is about those states specifically and them setting things on fire? I feel like every freaking time there's anything, anytime I see them in the news, something's been set on fire. There was that whole thing happening in, Washington, where a bunch of like Black Lives Matter protesters like blocked off like a block in the middle of like the street or something like that. Or maybe it was Portland. Portland was being set on fire back in 2020 from all the protests. Minnesota too. All these states that are so freezing cold in the winters, always setting things on fire. Maybe they're just cold. Needless to say, hundreds of ballots were destroyed in one of the early morning incidents. Investigators say that the 2 acts are likely connected with an attempt to set another ballot box on fire earlier this month. Well, they got to get on top of that. It's the 28th, guys. Like, October 1st was 28 days ago. It's been a while. You got to figure this stuff out. So 2 ballot boxes were set on fire in Portland and Vancouver early Monday morning. So the Oregon Secretary of State said, quote, "Make no mistake, an attack on a ballot box is an attack on our democracy and completely unacceptable. Whatever the motivation behind this incident, there is no justification for any attempt to disenfranchise voters." Oh, doesn't that make your heart just bleed with love for Oregon? Not me. If the Oregon Secretary of State really cared about democracy and really cared about protecting people's votes, they would not have ballot boxes like this in the first place. I'm totally against stuff like this for this exact reason. I mean, who's to stop someone from breaking into one of those things, pulling out all the votes? Who's to stop someone from setting them on fire? Who's to stop them from doing a whole heck of a lot of things to these to manipulate an election? And for the record, this is in Portland. These are a bunch of Democrat votes in these ballot boxes with probably one Republican one in there. So this isn't me even complaining about Republicans being disenfranchised from their votes. This is people getting disenfranchised from their votes in general. So I'm totally against ballot boxes. If you have to get a ballot sent to your house, you should have to either drop it off in person at a polling location, hand it directly to an election official, or put it in the mail. And I recognize that the mail can also still be fishy, to say the least, but I would rather my ballot be put into just a general mailbox with a whole bunch of other mail. For the most part, it's being handled by federal employees to get it to its destination, versus all of them just landing in one spot. I mean, that's just a total target, right? If you're someone who's trying to take out ballots, you can't go to every single person's mailbox and set those on fire. But you see a big red box like that, it says official election drop box on it. That looks like a target right there. It looks like a bullseye's on it. So I'm very saddened to see stuff like this happen. And this just adds fuel to the fire that a lot of conservatives have when they say that our elections are not secure. We see stuff like this and point out that ballots are being set on fire. Who's to say that all those in there weren't for Trump? They might have all been for Kamala, but maybe some of them were for Trump. I mean, who knows? So it just adds fuel to the fire of the never-ending debate of are American elections secure or not. I believe they mostly are secure. I do believe that Trump lost in 2020, but you see stuff like this, and it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, when's this happening? How many votes did get lost? So let's go and move on. Next story. We got plenty more to get through. We're not going to have time to cover all these in this show, so let's keep it moving. So Harris stays quiet on student loans as cancellation loses its political luster. Thank God. Finally, we've gotten to the point where we've got out of that little rut where I feel like, all the Democrats in the country were trying to cancel student loans and everything and, cancel those payments, stuff like that, and just write it off. Goodbye, Dad. Bye. See ya. I'm glad we're finally getting away from this. Joe Biden tried to push through policy that was terrible policy. It was just awful. Back during the beginning of his presidency, he got shot down by Supreme Court and got shot down by Congress. So I'm glad to see that finally it's losing its political luster, according to AP. So at a campaign rally in April, President Joe Biden told a Wisconsin crowd that his latest life-changing plan for student loan cancellation, promising financial relief for more than 30 million Americans. So Kamala Harris said, for far too long, our nation has encouraged only one path to success, a 4-year college degree. Our nation needs to recognize the value of other paths. Finally, a Democrat saying what Republicans have been saying literally since the beginning of time, that there are other options out there than a 4-year college degree. Go to a trade school, go to a community college, go and do literally so many other things than go to a 4-year college. I'm in a 4-year college and I went to community college. And here we are showing off that there are other options to getting an education. It's great. I'm so happy to see stuff like this. Great things coming from Kamala Harris. Will I vote for her? Absolutely not. Should anyone else vote for her? Absolutely not either. But point being, a Democrat finally saying what Republicans have been saying for years. And you know why they're saying it? They're saying it because they know that this is a losing issue. Student loan cancellation is a losing issue. Nobody wants it. And by the way, you know who wants it the least? Older Americans who primarily vote in elections. If you are old, you probably already paid off all your student loans if you had them anyways. So the thought of paying off someone else's student loans who's my age does not sit well with you, especially when you're the largest piece of the pie in the electorate. So I've always been against this. If you're going to take out a loan, you should have to repay it yourself. I don't want my tax dollars going off to pay a loan for you. I also sympathize with people who took another career path and became, a garbage man or became an HVAC worker or became literally anything else, as opposed to someone who didn't get a 4-year college degree, paying for the student loans of someone who did go to college. So while Kamala Harris is still an awful candidate, I guess a thumbs up for a step in the right direction. All right. We're nearing the end of the show. We have to talk about some woke TikToks. And we're once again pushing a thing that I've been wanting to talk about for a while to the next show. But I promise we will get to it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. But let's get to some woke TikToks. We'll take a break. We will take a break from the rust and rumble of the news cycle and talk about some woke TikToks. Let's get right into this first one. Where are we? Where's my tab at? Here we go. This is what I want. All right. Hopefully we all can hear this. So this first woke TikTok comes from Dean Withers, who, if you don't know who Dean is, he is one of those little, he's the newest line of the Democrats' machine of influencers who are pushing pro Kamala Harris stuff. He was on a recent debate with Ben Shapiro. He was also on a debate with Charlie Kirk. I would say he got a lot of followers just from him debating Charlie Kirk. Not that he did a very good job debating him, but point being, here's that woke TikTok for you. Let's watch this and we'll discuss. This is just so cringe. So basically, what they're portraying in this TikTok is that if Donald Trump gets elected, gay marriage is out the window. That's basically all they're saying. This is so cringe because what I have to say, and to all the other gay people of the Twitter world, many of them who I know who support Donald Trump, such as myself, did these people forget, did these youngins forget that Dean's my age, for the record, I believe. I might be like a year older than him, but we're about the same age. Did everyone forget that Donald Trump was president for 4 years and nothing happened to gay rights somehow? We're all still here. We didn't get put into the internment camps or anything. So that's why I find it very laughable whenever these crazy liberals suggest that gay marriage is going to be gone if Donald Trump is reelected. And I love their little, where's their little chalkboard they wrote? So dues, if Trump gets elected, marry a boy, give man babies, and be straight. It's just cringy. I'm sorry. It's just cringy to see stuff like this. And I've seen TikToks, and if I ever see one from the right that is cringy like this too, I will be sure to share that, because we share all the most important news stories on Spin Cycle Live. I'll be sure to share that with you. Needless to say, it's just cringy to look at. I'm sorry, it's just cringy to look at. All right. So I got one other one to show you all that I can't get it out of my head. It's that one in particular, like that sat me down. I saw that last night. I was not ready for it. But we got one more. And this one's a doozy. Let's watch this one. We're going to put it into full screen. First off, I don't know what that thing is on the screen, but that is an enigma if I've ever seen one. That is Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, I believe. Step thing. Let's watch this. This is a bunch of men talking about how important it is that their daughters have the right to abort their unborn fetuses. Let's watch this.
This is the time to really show your support for your daughters.
What do I love about being a girl dad? I love how much smarter she is than all the guys in the room already. I can tell that she's going to be a powerhouse. She is already at 2.5.
My daughter's 22 and a half, is a feminist, incredibly strong, and has...
Look at how uncomfortable Ben Stiller looks. He's like my daughter, she's 22 and a half. He's like wringing his hands. He looks so uncomfortable recording this video.
Really just inspired me in so many ways. I love her.
I'm the proud dad of Ella over here.
My vote for Kamala is an investment in my daughter's future.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
When the Dobbs decision came out 2+ years ago, I heard from Kamala right away, and then the next person was Ella. She texted me right away, essentially saying, we need to fight. This is not just an issue for women. This is an issue for men and families. And this is one of the many, many reasons why we've got to elect Kamala as president.
Never in my lifetime did I think that we would be having to fight for this and the fight for our own bodies. And I think it's really important for the men to step up and show that they actually support us and they're willing to put things on the line to help us.
We need to step up and fight. We need to step up and fight for abortion rights. Oh my God. We need to step up and fight, because God forbid I have unprotected sex, get impregnated, and have to get an abortion. Oh my God. The terror. Oh my God. This is the thing that I've always found so laughable about these abortion activists, is they have like some of the worst arguments for being pro-abortion. Like I sympathize with the people who are pro-choice when they talk about rape and incest and everything. Those are actually some good arguments from, the pro-choice perspective. The arguments from the pro-choice perspective about, oh my gosh, we need abortions because they're like preventative care. We need abortion so I can go out and have unprotected sex and get pregnant, and just so that I can get an abortion because I am not smart enough to be safe with my partner. It's such a bad argument in my opinion. Like, I don't know how anyone buys onto this. Like I said, I sympathize with the people who come from the rape and incest perspective. This is just dumb. This is just such an awful argument. And I love how uncomfortable all the celebrities look though. They're all like standing around, like acting like that they're like kings of the world and everything. It looks so uncomfortable. Anyways, that's the end of our show. We went a couple minutes over time, but that's okay. That's okay. We have to fly through the news stories in this show. We can't spend too much time. And I did talk for a while about DEI and how great it is that we're getting it out of the United States. We don't want DEI here. We want life, not death in the United States. But that is all. Please return on Wednesday. Today is Monday. For the next hottest news stories. We only cover the most hottest, the most piping hot news stories on this show, because we are your number one. You should be your number one news source, frankly, because the stories that I pull, they're great stories. They're beautiful stories. They are so phenomenal. We keep it light. We keep it fresh. We keep it easy to digest. This is a very fibrous meal of news that you have all gotten from me today. This is going to go right through you. It's going to be so good. It's going to be healthy. It's going to make you feel strong. You're going to want to run a marathon after we're done with this episode. But that is all for today. We'll be back on Wednesday, same time, same place. If you have questions about the show, any comments, please follow me. Send me a message on Twitter, on now known as X. Homo18 is my name. Send me a message there. You have questions you want on the show, send them to me. I'm happy to answer them. I love you all so much. And please, I'm excited to see you all back here on Wednesday. But with that, have a good rest of your Monday. Do something fun for me. I'll be thinking about all of you. But with that, I bid you all adieu.